welcome to the Friday edition of Stream On. Yesterday we talked about the pennant race that's going on in the AL East, and Fox had a great broadcast last night. We talked about that yesterday, and good game, as we know. Coming into the game last night, 4-game series between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Baltimore Orioles. The Rays were 2 games back, and last night's game 4-3. The Rays won it. Now they cut the lead to 1. And it's really good to have exciting, meaningful baseball being played in September. And certainly for those fans of the Baltimore Orioles game, as I said before, done last night on Fox. Kudos to good job done last night by the gang, which of course, it's not easy to do whenever you only do 1 game a week, but Joe Davis and of course John Smoltz is fantastic. Kenny Rosenthal doing doing his sideline reporting and keeping us all up to date on what's going on, and Billy Webb directing. It was a very well done telecast. It had all the earmarks of a wonderful uh, playoff feel to it, and that's where Billy and Joe and certainly Johnny Smoltz can capture that, and did an absolutely magnificent job of it last night. So kudos to them. Amazon and their football game with the Eagles and the Vikings. Not as exciting, but it's Michaels, it's Herb Street, it's a good game, and they did a nice job on Amazon last night. All right, so let's talk. Let's jump into it real quick here. The Rays and the Orioles are tonight, as we said yesterday. This entire series is going to be on television. It's being streamed tonight on the Friday night game of the week on Apple TV Plus, and of course Wayne Randazzo is the play-by-play. Dontrell Willis is handling the color, and Heidi Watney is going to handle the interviews on the side. So that's tonight's game. Okay. Saturday night's game, which is of course a 7:00 start, and Sunday, which is a 1:30 start, will both air on the MLB network. So as we said yesterday, and I hope that you circle it if you're a baseball fan, these two teams have been, amazing. And when you think about the fact that the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and the Yankees are trailing mightily, these two teams, they're fun to watch. They play great defense, and it's good television. So tonight on, Apple TV Plus, Friday Night Baseball, and then of course on the weekend, as I said before, MLB Network on Saturday night and MLB Network on Sunday afternoon. So you want to watch some baseball, some very important pennant race baseball, we got it for you, and it's on Apple TV Plus. All right, so Wednesday's show, we talked about the fact that the MLS has been out for a couple of weeks now because of the break, so that players can go and play for the national team. This is a time of year when there's qualifying being done for major tournaments around the globe, and so soccer players go to their respective countries to play for the respective teams. That includes Lionel Messi, who of course plays for Argentina. Well, MLS fans, wait no longer, because tomorrow night they're coming back. A full slate of games on MLS. Apple TV Plus, MLS Season Pass is where you get those games. I know that we had a lot of questions, a lot of insight coming into these games throughout the week. People are excited to see where things are, because it's going to be an interesting chase. And certainly Inter Miami, who started, this when they got the Messi era, they started in last place from the standpoint of the worst team in the league. They're now a bit of a juggernaut, and but they still have a ways to go to make the playoffs. And so, that's the playoff run for them, and it all begins tonight. Now, Messi will not be playing for Inter Miami tonight. We expect that he'll be back maybe Wednesday, maybe next weekend. So we'll see about that. We'll keep you posted on that. So anyway, MLS fans, you're cool. Everything's going to be fun and ready to rock and roll tonight. Stream it on Apple TV. I'm sorry, tomorrow, Saturday night, Apple TV Plus, and MLS Season Pass. Now, also tomorrow and on Sunday, the Premier League is in full swing. You're going to get those games on USA and Peacock Saturday and Sunday mornings. We're finding that the ratings have been really fantastic for Premier League as well as Champions League over on Paramount Plus. So without any question, soccer has done really well on Saturdays and Sundays. And in the old days when I was growing up, when dinosaurs ruled the earth, we used to watch cartoons on Saturday and Sunday mornings. Not any longer. They've got a wonderful group of young folks who are watching 8 to 18 are watching and streaming a great deal of this great soccer on television. So without any question, they know where to find it. It's on Peacock and on Paramount Plus. So they're doing a really good job with that. Let's go to tonight. We have some college football, and I know a lot of folks will be tuning in for that. Army is at the UT San Antonio. That game's a 7:00 kick on ESPN. Army Schmoroff is on the call on with Andre Ware and Paul Caterina. That should be an interesting game. A lot of Army folks down in San Antonio, and they should have a packed house down in San Antonio for that game tonight. Army and UTSA, a new member of the American Conference. Alrighty, Maryland and Virginia. Okay, this game's being played in College Park, 7:00. FS1. Eric Collins, Devin Gardner. Okay, Virginia and Maryland used to be rivals whenever they were back in the ACC together. But Maryland moved on to the Big Ten, and Virginia has stayed, obviously doing well in the ACC. We'll see how this one is. Maryland has played pretty well this season. Virginia, they are reeling off of what happened, last season with the tragedy of losing some players in a shooting situation. So Maryland, Virginia tonight. That's a 7:00 start on FS1. Eric Collins, Devin Gardner. And then it's Utah State and Air Force. That game's 8:00 on CBS Sports Network. Alex Del Biro and Robert Turr on the call. Quick note on that. If you don't have CBS Sports Network on your cable or streaming situation, you can download the app, which you can find at the App Store if you have an Apple phone or Android. Just go to the Google Play Store. You download the app, the CBS Sports app. It's a fantastic app, and they will have you hooked so that you can watch highlights of those games or watch the game in its entirety. So Air Force against Utah State tonight, and that should be a fun one. 8:00 CBSN, and as we said before, you can stream it on either CBSN or you can catch it, and that's Sports Network, by the way, not the news network, and you can stream it on the app. Okay, all right. So let's move on to Saturday, and let's start with the games at noon. And we'll get back to, I know what's going on in Boulder. We'll get back to talk about Dion in Colorado and all that with the big Monday, big Saturday, and game day all being in Boulder for this for the game. But we will get back to that a little bit later. Let's start with the noon games of interest. Number 3, Florida State at Boston College. That's a noon game. ABC, Dave Pasch, Dusty Dvorak, and Tom Luckenbill. For some reason, and I have no idea why, Boston College, especially when they play them on Chestnut Hill in Boston, gives Florida State all kinds of grief. And again, like I said, I have no clue why. Florida State seems to handle them well when they come to Tallahassee, but something about Boston gives Florida State some grief. So keep an eye out for that number 3 ranked Florida State team, who's been playing incredibly well throughout the early season. And we'll see how they do at Boston College. That's a 12:00 game on ABC. Meanwhile, 7 ranked Penn State against Illinois. Seventh-ranked Penn State, Illinois. That is a 12 o'clock game on Fox. Gus Johnson, Joe Clack have the call, and Penn State has played very well. Illinois is not quite. They're Penn State should handle Illinois. There's no question about that. We'll see how it goes. And Gus Johnson, as I said, Joe Clack on the call. Number 14, LSU against Mississippi State, 12 o'clock. That's on ESPN. LSU and Brian Kelly, they have a lot to prove. And we'll see. We will see, because that Mississippi State team is not a bad team at all. So we'll see if Mississippi State can hang with LSU. And again, that's one of the new games tomorrow. Let's go to the mid-afternoon games. Let's start with Notre Dame. Number 9 Notre Dame is hosting the Chippewas from Central Michigan. That game's 2:30. It's on Peacock. That's a Peacock-only game. So it's an exclusive game to Peacock. Jack Collingsworth on the call with Jason Garrett. Then we have number 10 Alabama in Tampa to face South Florida. It's a 3:30 game on ABC. Bob Wischusen, Robert Griffin III, RG3, will be on the call. And the Alabama South Florida game could be very interesting. I think South Florida has a new team, which new coach Alex Golesh has assembled. Last time Alex Golesh faced Alabama, and it was last season, he was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, and they beat Alabama. Now, that's not to say South Florida is going to beat them, because depth-wise, Alabama can run 3 and 4, deep out there, and they're all 4 and 5 star kids. So it's tough, and they're going to be mad because they lost to Texas last week. So it will be an interesting game, to be sure. That's an ABC game, as we just said, 3:30. Some people forgot that CBS still has some SEC games, and one of them is going to be tomorrow. And that's number 1 Georgia entertaining South Carolina. It's, as I said, CBS, Brad Nessler, and of course Gary Danielson, who do all those wonderful games at 3:30 for CBS. So it's an interesting game. South Carolina and Georgia they've had, South Carolina's played Georgia tough a couple of last couple of years, but no reason to believe that the number 1 ranked team in the country is going to lose that game, especially a home game at down there between the hedges. Let's see what we got in our night games tomorrow. Well, prime time, number 11, Tennessee at Florida. That's 7 o'clock. That's on ESPN. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit. This is what people have said. This is a rivalry game. And being a fan of the Gators, it's a rivalry game only so much as the coaches started it a few back in the 70s. Doug Dickey was the head coach at the time of Tennessee, and after he lost a bowl game, actually it was the Gator Bowl, to Florida, he was hired by Florida. So it was kind of an interesting situation. So Doug Dickey got the job, took over for Ray Graves, and there's been some coaching, chirping between Tennessee and Florida ever since. They're 2 rivals of each other in the SEC East, and this will be the first game of the season that will count in the SEC standings. So if Florida can get by Tennessee, that'll really do some muddling up of what goes on the east side of the bracket, because Georgia far and away is the best team in the East. But second best, who knows? Could be Florida, could be Tennessee. We'll see. Speaking of a total rivalry game, Pitt plays West Virginia, 7:30 tomorrow on ABC. Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy doing the call on that game. That is the backyard brawl. It's probably one of the 5 most entertaining and fiercest rivalries in college football. For about 6 or 8 years, they didn't play each other because of scheduling conflicts. But last year, they put together a home and home situation. Let's hope that they can keep this rivalry alive. They've played each other for 107 times. So it's a rivalry that has clearly a major history. It's got an urban situation where Pitt's in the city, and Morgantown's just 70 miles away. And so West Virginia and Pitt have that backyard brawl that has been years very entertaining. This time it's at Morgantown. Last year, Pitt won it in Pittsburgh, where it was a lot of fun, and it drew tremendous ratings. They got about 4.5 million on that one, which was one of the top games rated in the ACC last year. And so Pitt and West Virginia being played over in Morgantown on ABC. Fox's night game, TCU against Houston. That's 8 p.m. Timmy Brando and Spencer Tillman on the call. Timbo and Spencer, two friends of the show. TCU and Houston both have been disappointing. To be fair, TCU lost. We all remember that one to Colorado. That was the first game that the Buffs won, and they're facing a Houston team that last week, blew a game against Rice, which they ended up losing in overtime. So one of these teams wants to get off the schneid. It is a conference game now because Houston is in the Big 12 conference. So Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman will give us that call starting in prime time, 8 o'clock on Fox. Now, we have a game that is Pac-12 after dark. It's Colorado against Colorado State University. Game's going to be played in Boulder, 10 o'clock kick. All right. Unless you've been living under a rock, and most of you have not, you know that Game Day, which is ESPN's major pregame show, starts at 9 a.m. Eastern time, is going to be on location in Boulder because, of course, ESPN is televising that game on Pac-12 After Dark. And as will the gang from Fox's Big Saturday. They're going to be there, and Fox isn't even broadcasting the game, but they're going to be there doing their pregame show. And so you've got dueling pregame shows for a game that doesn't even begin until 10 p.m. Tomorrow night. So anybody who questions the Deion effect is really in in a bit of a pickle there, because Deion has definitely become the Pied Piper of college sports. And when you have a pregame show for a game that won't be starting for 8 hours later, it's going to be interesting. It's also going to be interesting to see how many fans can show up, because it's 10 a.m. There in Boulder for that pregame show. So we'll see how that all shakes out. No question, they've got some outstanding backdrops. I've seen. You're going to love the backdrops. They got beautiful mountains in the background, and it's just a very electric atmosphere that they're going to have for both pregame shows tomorrow, respectively on ESPN and on Fox. Okay, I know we have some questions about Deion. Now, Paul Feinbaum, who for whatever reason likes very much to stir things up, made mention the other day that he thought that Deion Sanders would be headed, and he didn't say when, but to Florida. And that's the SEC team, he said, where he's going. That's news to Billy Napier, who is the coach at Florida at the moment, and had the number 3 recruiting class according to 247. And they rank classes pretty tough. So 247 says they got the 3rd best class coming in. That's not a bad class. And I don't think Billy Napier's going anywhere. I don't think Deion's going anywhere. But, there are questions about it, and heaven knows we're here to answer them. So let me go to our questions, and let's see what we got here. All right. Argument man. Okay. It tells you something right off the bat. His home, meaning Deion, is in Fort Myers. Well, actually, that's where he was born and raised, but it's not his home now. He plays college days at FSU, making Florida home. Well, yeah, again, he was there. But he thinks, and I agree with you, that he is not likely to leave for FSU because Mike Norvell, even if he finishes 10-3 again, probably means he gets between 2 and 3 more years to prove himself. So once again, somebody saying Deion's not leaving. I agree with you. I don't think Deion's leaving. I don't think he's leaving Colorado. Okay, Bob Peterson has this one. He won't leave Travis Hunter. Nobody in their right mind would leave Travis Hunter. He's the best player in college football right now. Hunter is already transferred. That would sit him out for a year if he had to do it again. Travis has dropped FSU for Jackson and for Deion, and he followed him to Colorado. A lot of people have followed Deion to Colorado. Okay, so look at, I can't imagine what his recruiting classes are going to be in the weeks and years to come. Deion is a stand-up guy, and he will wait definitely to the end of his contract so that none of his players or transfers get screwed. Okay, I would agree with that, Bob. Let's move on the Deion train. Is there any other? Here's one asking me about what's next. That's his handle. He says, if these RSNs do not work out, how will there be other streaming options? If it's an entire sport like Major League Baseball, how many youths will subscribe at a $25 a month price tag to watch Major League Baseball? You bring up a really good question. Right now, there are, if I'm not mistaken, San Diego Padres, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and very soon the Pittsburgh Pirates. Although Cleveland could join that party, Detroit could join it, as well as Houston. But for the moment, we have 3. And what Major League Baseball has done, which basically is the template was set with the San Diego, is they didn't really they didn't take it all to streaming just yet. What they did is they made deals with the cable operators to just seamlessly move into where Bally's and AT&T Sports was, and just kind of take over those channels. And Major League Baseball stepped in and produced the games. That's likely to be the way they handle it with all the games going forward. Now, that being said, what that does do for them, though, is it gives them the ability to sell the extra innings package, which is all the baseball teams, all the baseball games, streaming them with local games. So if you want the whole package, meaning you can watch every game every day, including your home team, well, they will have the rights to do that for the teams that they are producing. So in this case, it would be San Diego and Arizona, and perhaps Pittsburgh here in the not too distant future. So I think that Major League Baseball's very aware of cost in streaming and keeping watch over how much the the kids and anybody has to pay, and where's the price point that is going to be palatable to people. So as the RSNs seem to be dropping off, I think that the leagues themselves are getting very creative in how they are going to do it. For instance, all you have to do is look at the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz is going to have their games on free over-the-air broadcast as well as streaming, so you can pick what you want in that regard. So I think we're going to see more of that kind of hybrid situation where you get a large number of free games on broadcast television, and you also have the option to stream everything. So that's what's coming up. That's what's next. What's next? So like your handle. That's kind of funny. All right. Okay. Let's see. Basically, okay. Are there more kids watching soccer than football? Uh, oof. I don't have any data that puts one against the other at this point. I do know that the data that I have shows that soccer has a 75% audience in the US with regards to kids under the age of 21. That part, I got it. So the audience is a very young audience for soccer, and that's not specifically, we can break that down between Premiership and Champions League and MLS. So we'll have to get some more data on that for you. But St. John's, that's soccer is become very, very popular with young kids. All right, Dennis Thornton, what you got for me? Big D. All right. Doesn't think that Deion would go to Florida. He graduated from Florida State. Has no, wouldn't go over well with the Gators. Look, again, I'm not firing Billy Napier. He's got the job, and I understand where Paul Feinbaum, like to drop that bomb on, on Florida. I don't see him going to Florida. I think Deion's going to be in Colorado for a while, and whatever his dream job is, and I have no idea what that is. It's going to be, he'll take it when he feels like it, and I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. I think he's going to give Colorado, a very, very good look at this point. It's a great university and outstanding facilities, and they basically have turned the keys to the treasure house over to him. So why would he not, right? Okay, let's go down scroll down the list here real quick. And we've got, okay, we got Henry Milton. What you got, Henry? Okay. One of the hottest programs in the country is because of him. He's talking now about Deion. I'm sure they're thrilled that he's got at least 4 years. Well, absolutely. I'm sure they are thrilled. 4 years, and I expect him to honor that contract. I don't think he's going to bolt anytime soon for any other team. And again, look at all the promotion and all of the broadcasting is that we've talked about just today that Colorado's going to get. Now, here's where things are going to get a little bit dicey. Okay, and that's we've seen him do well against TCU. TCU was in the championship game last year, and then of course they beat Nebraska out at Boulder. It's a fantastic game. Once they get into the games of the of the conference games, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And right now, if they can beat Colorado State, and trust me, that's not going to be an easy thing because Colorado State gives them fits all the time. If they can get by Colorado State, then they're 3-0. They have to win 3 more games to be bowl eligible, and they have a brutal schedule in the Pac-12. So we'll see. Right now he's on top of the world, and you gotta love him for it. But we'll see how it plays out. All righty. We got something here from Wolfpack Bill. All right, what do we got, Wolfpack? All right, SMU is a dark horse program I'd worry about. They have basically unlimited funds, and the new move to the ACC with boosters want them to win now. I wouldn't doubt that SMU has got that. That being said, you still have Clemson, and you still have, Florida State. North Carolina is not a bad team. SMU hasn't won the American yet. So do they have the money and the resources? Absolutely. They have the money and the resources to build a program. Are they there yet? No, they're not there yet, and they won't be there in the next couple of years. So we'll see how overall SMU, does and the programs there. Again, I'm bullish on SMU. I think they'll be fine in the ACC, and they'll be a fun challenge. But I wouldn't look for them to have an interesting, or even for that matter, a difficult impact in the ACC, or make a major impact in the ACC for a few years. I mean, let's see how they play against the big boys, because as I said before, they have not won the American, and they've been decent, but they haven't been that great. And we've got the portal and all that. I get it, but which you can turn a program around fast. But so do the other teams in that league. So we'll see how that is. But I'm just happy they're in the ACC and they're doing well. All right. Okay, if numbers, this is from Chuck. If numbers continue to trend, we will be watching Premier League and Champions League grow even further. Ratings between the 8 to 16 beat every sport. Kids today watch soccer like we watch cartoons when we were kids. I basically kind of said some of that, but no, I agree with you, Chuck. You're right. That's something to be looking forward to. Let's go back over here. We got a ton of stuff going on. We got some questions, and we got, hey, good to see Wild Ute. Okay. Wild Ute says, low television viewership for media companies wanting to kill off the Pac-12. I don't think they wanted to kill off the Pac-12, Wild Ute. It looked that way, but I don't think they're an immaculate. Good to see you in the house. I think that what happened was a series of missteps that came about by bad leadership. I mean, first it was the Larry Scott situation, and they really were behind the curve almost on everything, which which is mind-boggling given the fact that you know they had Los Angeles, San Francisco. I mean, they're very sophisticated, very solid media people out there. I mean, I don't understand how they didn't understand what was going on. So yeah, I don't know that. I wouldn't say that the media companies wanted to kill him off. I think that it was a situation where the pack didn't help themselves, and they miscalculated on a number of occasions. And had they simply just taken that deal that ESPN and Fox offered them, which was equal to and maybe a few bucks more possibly than what the Big 12 had, they'd still be together today. Without, of course, probably without the benefit of UCLA and USC, but still they would be there, and it would be very interesting. So I don't. I think the low television viewership, is i it's a bit of a misnomer, because you have to remember that uh, the Mountain West time zone and the Pacific time zone only account for 23% of the entire television audience of the country. Okay. So if you figure that noon Pacific time, would be in that 3:30 window, they could get, a game at 3:30, they could get a game at 7 or 7:30, and then they could go to the Pac-12 after dark. Now, they had 3 time slots that they could go. But only one of those time slots, the Pac-12 after dark, consistently was, in the 2 million range, something like that, 2.5. They only had 2 windows, and that was really the 3:30 and the 7:30, and there was a lot of traffic in that 3:30 window, and the 7:30 window usually was a prime, a massive game. So part of it was the reach, part of it was scheduling, part of it was not playing games, and expanding when they had numerous opportunities to expand. So I would not put this as much on the media companies. They've had they certainly have some blood on their hands here, but not as much as the leadership or lack thereof of the conference to see and evaluate their true value. I think they overvalued and they overreached at every possible wrong time. So while so I just don't know. I think it's as I say, the Pac-12 basically killed itself. It really did, and that's a shame, because I'll be honest, I really truly like the conference, and I would love to see the conference stick around. Let's got a couple minutes here. Let's jump over real quick and go over the games on Sunday in the NFL, and who's doing what times they're on, and who are the broadcasters. Okay, so here we go real quick. NFL and CBS game time, 1 p.m. Kansas City at Jacksonville, Iron Eagle. Charles Davis on that game. Jacksonville is really still mad that they got bounced by Kansas City last season. Games being played in Jacksonville should be interesting. Kansas City's coming off of a loss. Jacksonville's coming off of a win, and we'll see how that goes. Vegas, Buffalo, Kevin Harlan and Trent Green on that call. Buffalo's coming off of a loss. Vegas is coming off of a win again. So you got a team that Vegas with Jimmy G looked pretty good last week. Buffalo, interesting. I mean, they really played sloppy, to be honest. Buffalo played sloppy. They lost that Monday night game against, of course, the Jets. Baltimore, Cincinnati. That's what they like to call a slobber knocker game. It's a conference game between two teams that just do not like each other. And Baltimore and Cincinnati. Now, Baltimore played well last week. Cincinnati, in their opener against Cleveland, did not. Cincinnati can't afford to lose this game to Baltimore because that would put them 2 games down in the North Conference. So I think Cincinnati's going to play with some urgency, even though it's only the second game of the season. And Baltimore always plays Cincinnati tough. Andrew Cartellone on the call with the one and only Tiki Barber. That's your early games on CBS, your early games on Fox. 1 o'clock games. Seattle at the red hot Detroit Lions. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen. So they got the A team on that game. Seattle's coming across to Detroit, coming across country. That usually doesn't bode well, but we'll see how that works. Detroit's playing very well, and as I said before, they're really the sexy pick out of that conference for a chance at the Super Bowl. Personally, I think the 49ers are a better team, but Detroit's certainly talented. Chicago at Tampa Bay. We'll see. Chicago lost last week to Green Bay. Tampa Bay won their game with the Vikings, and it should be interesting. Joe Davis on the call with Daryl Johnston. You've got Tampa Bay without Tom Brady, but with a reinvigorated Baker Mayfield, and he played really well in that second half of that game. So we'll see. That should be an interesting game. Tampa Bay is a 3.5-point favorite over the Bears in that game. Green Bay, who played quite well in their opener, is at Atlanta. Our buddy Kenny Albert and Jonathan Vilma have that game. Indianapolis at Houston. So those are the early games on CBS. Late games on CBS, the Jets in Dallas, Jimmy Nance and Tony Romo on that game. Obviously, that's the A game. Dallas blew out their stadium partners, the New York Giants, last week. And as we said, the Jets beat Buffalo in their opener. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be without, obviously, Aaron Rodgers. So we'll see how the Jets defense can do. And Dallas just rolled. So we'll have to see if Dallas is as good against a very different style of team, because the Jets have a very strong defense. The Giants' defense is good, but not quite like the Jets. Washington won their opener. Denver lost theirs. They're playing at the Mile High Stadium, of course, and that is Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta on the call for that game. Should be interesting how the Commanders do out in the altitude of Denver. Late games on Fox. The late games on Fox. Giants are at Arizona. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, it's an entertaining game if you're a Giants fan. Arizona's not been playing well. Adam Amin on the call, Mark Schlereth. Now, as I said before, my team that I think is going to be in the Super Bowl, Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers played very well last week. The Rams, not so much. Kevin Kugler, Mark Sanchez on the call on Fox. And then the night game on NBC, streamed on Peacock, is going to be Miami at New England. Miami has beaten New England the last 4 times they have played them. Tua has played out of his mind in those games, and so we'll see. So that is your slate of football for this coming week, both college and professional. So there you go. One quick note, and that is that you can you can stream all of the games on a local basis. So you get your local game and your national game. CBS on Paramount Plus. So if you have a Paramount Plus subscription and you don't have access to your local CBS affiliate, you'll get your local game and then you'll get the national game. Okay. So that's how that works. Same thing on NBC. That game Sunday night will be available to you if you are a Peacock. If you are a Peacock subscriber. All right. So let's go back to the questions. We have some questions. And our buddy Immaculate says, the eventuality of the consolidation of major conferences was inevitable because they were all trying to follow the same model. Thus, winners and losers were inevitable. True. It was basically a version of Survivor. Some did survive, some did not, and no, agree 100% with your observation there. The future is different, a different model for each major conference. Likely true, yeah, but that's not going to come anytime. Well, maybe in the next 4 to 5 years, maybe 6 years, we'll see. But there's definitely has to be a new way of doing it. There's no question about that. Agree with you 100%, Immaculate. So let's go real quick for a couple of more questions before we get out of here on a Friday afternoon. There they are. Okay. We have still people chiming in on SMU, and we have let's see if there's any more questions having to do with Deion, which we said again, both ESPN and Fox will be with their pregame shows tomorrow at Boulder. Those shows start at 9 a.m. Check them out. Okay. What's next wants to know how they're going to get revenue from regional sports networks. Well, first of all, they're not. They're in law. They're in court with them because they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Eventually, they'll get some of that money. Subscribers and ad revenue won't make up the money, believe me, of what the regional sports networks were doing. But then again, these regional sports networks paid inflated fees. So we're just going to have a course correction, guys. It's no different than the stock market or any financial situation. You have a course correction, and we'll do that in sports, and that's just the way it is. So anyway, greatly appreciate the time you guys have spent with us today. We've had a lot of fun. Soccer fans, remember, MLS is back on Apple tomorrow. The Champions League and the Premier League's back. So those of you watching soccer on Peacock and on Paramount Plus will be happy. NFL on Paramount Plus and on Peacock tomorrow. I'm sorry, that's on Sunday. Tomorrow, Peacock has some football. We already talked about those two games. They had Notre Dame, and then they got Washington and Michigan State, two very entertaining games. That will be on Peacock exclusively tomorrow. And of course, ESPN and Fox have a full slate of games. So without any further ado, folks, we'll take maybe one or two more questions and we'll wrap it up. And all right, let's see. We're almost there. The only one left is the ACC regards to their transition. And that's true. And Immaculate and I had a conversation about this last week. I agree 100% with him that the ACC will probably become the closest thing to a Power 5 Ivy League conference. I think that's where they're headed. That's, I think, why Stanford and Cal are there. They're in with their buddies Duke and Pitt and some of those other schools. And so Syracuse, certainly Boston College. So, I think they're well set for what happens on the next round in their games too. So by all means, check it out. Now, if you want to find out more in depth, pretty much anything we've talked about, whether it be college football or baseball or certainly the NFL, by all means, check out our buddies at Locked On Podcast Network. They've got some outstanding people This past week, we had Locked On Pac-12's Spencer McLaughlin with us, and so they have a great group of folks who can give you some very interesting information. Wild Ute, who was on here just a minute ago, he's got the Holy Rivals along with Boomer, which is the Big 12 Mafia man. They do a great podcast as well. Immaculate himself over there, who's answered some questions for us on that. Highly recommend their show too. So, gang, look, it's been fun. We'll have you back on Monday. You have a safe weekend. Tonight is Rosh Hashanah in the Jewish faith, which means a new year. I wish you all a happy and a healthy and a sweet new year. And we will talk to you on Monday. Again, thanks, guys, for dropping by. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you. We'll see you on Monday. Take care now.